Oh man, where do I begin with reviewing this absolute amazing game? Everything about this is a step in the right direction for the mainline Pokemon series, them being quite mediocre in the last few years and feeling a bit repetitive. This game changes everything. And while sure some of that is hyperbole, the game definitely should be a blueprint for future installments in the series. First off, catching Pokemon is legitimately fun and addicting to do, since for the first time in this game you can sneak up on Pokemon and throw Pokeballs at them or try to Pokemon to engage in battle. New forms though are really hit or miss, and personally I'm not really a big fan of these new designs, but hey, that's fine. Nothing's perfect after all. But there's no excuse for Origin form Palkia. Why does it look like that? Please, just give it arm. Trainer battles don't happen very often throughout the story, which makes sense since there isn't a Pokemon League in Sinnoh yet, and Pokemon aren't really seen as pets in Pokemon universe yet. You don't really have a rival in this game either, as Akari or Raid depending on which gender you pick at the beginning of the game. More like the friendly rivals from the first half of Generation 5 and 6. Lord Pokemon are basically Totem Pokemon from Generation 7, but better. You fight them head-on in small battle arenas, with the main lords being Cleaver, Hisuian Lilligant, Hisuian Arcanine, Hisuian Electrode, and Hisuian Avalugg. You also fight some legendaries in these types of battles such as Origin Form Palkia, Dialga, and of course, Arceus. There's kind of similar battles with a handful of legendaries in the post-game, with them being shielded instead of being powered up. Outside of battle mode is where it gets intense, because Pokemon can straight up murder you. Also, quick side note, Alpha Pokemon are such a cool idea and I hope this feature returns in future generations. This game also has various different collectibles available, such as the many different forms of Unknown, the Rotom forms which can be purchased from Ginter and Jubilant Village, and what can only be described as this game's version of Korok Seeds, the Spiritomb Wisps. These things are somewhat tedious to collect, but luckily unlike Koroks, these are very easy to see in the overworld, but you still need to have a keen eye to see them, as some are pretty well hidden or out of the way that you wouldn't normally encounter them by just going on the main story route that you have to follow. There's also one of the very few side quests that you need to complete to finish the Pokédex. Speaking of which is the Incarnate Forces of Sui request from Kagita, which revolves around you finding Tundros, Landorus, Tornadus, and the brand new member of the trio group is Anomarus. I think that's how you pronounce it, I'm not really sure. Who is not only the worst design out of the four, but also the worst terrain form out of the four. Like, what is this shit?
No.
Trying to catch them is a bit difficult since you need to sting up them with tornadoes surrounding them and daze them with either a Pokeball or an item you can throw. Also, remember that one random Easter egg in BDSP about the Legend of the Sea? Well, it's actually brought up in this game and allows you to capture Manaphy and Trifionis at the Cobalt coastlines, which is very cool. If you have save data from Sword or Shield, you can encounter Shaman and get special clothing in the post-game. If you have a Brilliant Diamond or Shining Pearl save file, you can encounter Darker in the Coronet Highlands again in the post-game. And if you have Let's Go data, you can get special clothing items at any time in the game. There's also the obligatory Sinnoh legendaries like Heatran and Cresselia. Completing the Pokedex is done on different levels, like catching all Pokemon, which allows you to challenge Arceus, getting a research level to level 10, which if you do with every Pokemon, gets you the shiny charm, and getting perfect research level, which maybe someday I'll do, since that's quite a lot of dedication for some Pokemon. Instead of Pokemon Centers and Pokemarts, this game has campsites which allow you to craft items, access pastures, which are the PC box equivalent in this game, change the time of day, which also heals your Pokemon, and buy items from the shop. The one complaint I have though is that if you want to leave an area, you need to go back to the Jubilant Village and talk to the guard at the gates. You go to a different area, which is kind of annoying if you're just going to an area for something small like getting a lost satchel. One of the best things however is that to evolve Pokemon that would normally need to be traded, you just use an item on them to evolve, which I think is really good and should be carried on for future games. The story though is kind of basic. Arceus commands you to fix a space-time crack in the sky above Mount Coronet, which big ass spoilers coming up, like massive spoilers for the end of the post game. Go to this timestamp on screen right now if you don't want to get spoiled type of spoilers. You gone? Okay, it's created by Volo, who legitimately was a big surprise villain, although I think he was too similar to Cyrus in terms of goals, as both have the same ideas of destroying Sinnoh using Giratina to recreate the world in his image. But him teaching you the backstroke technique was very clever in retrospective and just stings a bit more. But I give the story a pass since the gameplay is extremely fun. Collecting type plates throughout the story was a good way at making them actually fun to get, and the final fight with Arceus was legitimately very difficult to do in one attempt, so props to Game Freak for actually making this game fairly difficult towards the end of the journey. Although the plate he gives you, I'm not really sure as to what that does. It's kind of vague. I would also recommend, if you haven't before, to do some shiny hunting in this game, since it seems as though the shiny odds have been reduced quite significantly even without the shiny charm. So if you see a swarm and you have that Pokemon's research level at level 10, you basically have a high chance of getting an easy shiny. I'd also assume the legendaries and mythicals are still shiny locked, along with the starters at the beginning of the game and the starters you receive from the professor in the post game. But honestly, I'm not very sure about that one. I will say though that space-time distortions are a pain in the ass to try and encounter, since you need to just be doing nothing in the area for 5 to 40 minutes, which is super frustrating. And you do need to encounter a few to get a regional Pokemon needed to complete the Pokedex, like Johto Sneasel to get Weavile. This also applies to certain Pokemon such as Porygon and its evolutions, which can only be found in space-time distortions. Very annoying shit. Hope if we ever get other Legends games that they try to make stuff less grindy and time-consuming. This game also proves that Game Freak can easily drop its split versions every generation, and just release one game that's possible to complete the entire Pokedex in. But this is Game Freak we're talking about, and competence isn't something they're very fond of in the recent decade at this point. Please get your act together for the Gen 5 remakes, because BDSP were massively overshadowed by this game. But I'll definitely have a video of just ripping into these somewhat mediocre games in the near future. So look out for that one. If you were wondering what my team was, by the way, I ended up with Samurai, Bibarel, Jolteon, Rapidash, Braviary, and Alpha Lucario. Let me know in the comments what your team was at the end of the game. Tldr, this game, fantastic. I really hope we get a Legends game every generation, give more lore to Pokemon universe, like the original form of Kyurem or Kyogre and Groudon's battle from Ancient Hoenn. This game also shows the Game Freak you don't have to keep pushing the Gen 1 starters to try and bank on nostalgia, so I'll give Pokemon Legends Arceus a score of 9.5 out of 10, and it's honestly a fantastic end to one of the worst generations of all time. Oh, and one last thing, if you didn't pick Joshua at the beginning of the game, you're factually incorrect.